You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 134, Wipe the Party, Now What? In today's episode, we discuss what to do when you wipe the party. We discuss how to try to avoid this problem when it comes up, and what to do if you wipe the party. We also discuss how to manage players through a bad spot if they are receptive to being saved. Also, an update on the podcast. The next episode will be coming out on December 7th. It will likely be a 10-minute episode. Those will try to be weekly episodes on topics. I will start doing some half-hour episodes with Josh, most likely, given that his schedule works typically the best for recording stuff. It's really all dependent upon how cooperative my child is. So she's still young. She's a joy. She's a lot of work. But I want to keep the podcast going, so hopefully I can start doing this weekly again starting December 7th, and I'll keep you updated for other future situations with this. But that's just an update on the podcast. Enjoy the episode. Leave your feedback. We'll still discuss it, and there will be longer episodes coming in the future. Thanks. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me virtually once again, I've got Josh. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing pretty good. Really enjoying the season still.
It's very, very nice. Again, I don't know when this one will come out here, but this will also probably be this one that was recorded in advance to make sure that I had a couple of buffer episodes for this little baby that I'm going to be having here. So I'll be sure to point it out on the podcast that, hey, I'm being a father right now. Don't have time for the podcast recordings, but they will be back.
Which unfortunately leaves it very difficult for me to find a way to segue into the topic at hand.
Oh, but, yeah, it's a weird one. So Josh is an adversarial GM.
I take offense to that, and I will kill you for it.
And so Josh has now wiped the party. Now what are you going to do, Josh?
I like to think... So I brought up this topic with Aaron a while back. He was asking, what sort of topics we'd like to cover. And this is one that's sort of near and dear to my heart. Not necessarily... I wrote it up as... So you've wiped the party, now what? But... that's not entirely the story here. It's disaster recovery. It's you have put your players in a situation that is too difficult for them, or that they have, lost terribly to, or just a couple of bad rolls and you have, destroyed a game. And how do you recover from that? How do you make it, take it to the next step? And I've done a couple of things with this before because things happen. You get long-term games, or you go up against bad situations. You get people that run into places and you pull every punch you can, but they are insistent on taking out the big bad. That is, if I just went for it, I could take them all out in a round. And how do you deal with that? Have you had to deal with that situation, Aaron?
I think everybody has had to deal with a situation where you've outmatched your players with something, or you have put your players into a situation and they all took their stupid pills today and they're all acting in the worst possible way, the way that's definitely going to get them killed. They're like, I wonder what would happen if we light the room on fire while we're in it and barricade the door so we can't escape. And it's like, well, if you do that, you're probably going to die.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things you can do. Okay. First, let's talk about the two types of players that you might encounter with this. Number one, you got players who are uninvested in their characters. And number two, you've got players who are invested in your characters. The goal is to get players that are invested in their characters. Okay, no matter what, even if you have players who are habitually uninvested in their characters, you need to get them somewhat invested in their characters because, again, they have to have a stake in the character that they need to keep the character alive. Okay, because it is infinitely easier to keep players out of bad situations if they want their characters to live. Now, if you're gonna play them, I think I mentioned this the last episode. If you're gonna drive it like you stole it, okay, then that's the worst situation that you can possibly have because now, no matter what you put them up against, these players are going to do crazy ass shit and get themselves into really bad situations. So,
yeah. But there are still players that are invested in their characters, but they are, for lack of a better term, they want to press that button. They've got that need. They need to find out what happens when you press that button. And
so you can put consequences behind the button that don't involve murdering the player.
I'm not saying the button is an actual button. I'm saying the button sometimes is you're in a room full of bandits, you're trying to do a negotiation, and somebody's like, nah, we're gonna attack them all. And
that has happened. Okay, so number one, you can see if there is a way for the players to escape. Okay, can the players escape the situation at hand? Now, will the players actually attempt to escape, or will they fight it out to the bitter end? That's a great question. I don't know.
It's one that I've answered a couple of times with oh no, they're sticking around. I'm going to throw things at them to try and dissuade them from sticking around. No, they think they're doing something right now. And, it does come down to finding a way to extricate the bad guys from the situation in a way that makes it look like they're winning, so that the players don't think that they've won the situation. It gets difficult.
That's really tough because let's say you walk into a room of 10 bandits and you're going to execute some illicit deal or whatever you're trying to recover lost items, and then your one player throws a wrench in it and shoots an arrow in one of the bandits. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to have the bandits respond and fight back. Now, the question is, were the bandits super strong to begin with? Okay? The players don't know anything about the bandits other than I loosed an arrow into one of them, and now I've got a downed bandit. What I would try to do in that situation, if we're going to have to go into a fight, or even in preparation for a situation like that where I know my dumb player might loose an arrow into one of these bandits, I would probably try to balance the encounter in such a way that the bandits are going to do significant damage to the players. Okay? In the event that they end up in this encounter. So the players are going to be in a really, really tough spot. Or even if they get through the bandits really quick, let's say they're rolling like champs. Okay? I would probably have more bandits waiting behind the door. Okay, I would make that's more of a on the fly kind of thing. But there have to be consequences felt for loosing an arrow during peaceful negotiations with the bandits. Okay,
well, some pre-planning helps quite a bit there. If you've got the sort of players that are willing to go up and ruin a casual encounter with extreme amounts of violence, throw in an NPC. Have an NPC on your side comes with for the meat. A good guy NPC that the bandits can cut in half in one hit.
That's a good one because that's a warning to your players. Like, hey, stick around, you get cleaved in twain.
Yeah, have Brutus the bandit step forward and just like grab the NPC and rip him in half, and just be like.
This is KYP though, Josh.
Yes,
you've already you've already recognized that your players are the types of dumbasses who are going to loose an arrow into the one bandit. Okay, Brutus is going to rip in twain your NPC, and they're going to be like, "You got lucky."
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so if your players, that's knowing your players and trying to prevent them from doing the dumb thing. Um, don't try and prevent them from doing the dumb thing. Let them do the dumb thing. If that's what they want to do, then that's what they want to do. But like, know that it's going to happen and prepare for it.
Have consequences ready for it to go. Like I said, try and think about like, okay, they might do this, or if you don't have an encounter planned, try and come up with the best comparable bandits that can fight your players in a reasonable clip. That your players are, like I said, your players have to be limping out of there, possibly flirting with death. Okay, because they let a really bad situation happen. And like I said, play it by ear. You can be additive. Let's say that they rip through your 10 bandits. All right. Well, as they're leaving, there are more bandits because we're at a bandit lair and a bandit hideout. And, these ones are stronger, and I'm going to make you feel the pain. Okay. Getting out of here requires pain, requires the loss of something. Okay. Whether it's your resources for the day, whether it's your resources for the session, whether it's the loss of, some permanent injury, you need to make sure that they walk away with a consequence as part of the dumb action. Okay. That's number one. If you're going to try and avoid just straight up killing them. Okay. If, however, you have stated that you are talking to Matus, okay? You are negotiating with Matus. He is the leader of the bandit gang. He is a notoriously ruthless killer, okay? And he is known for decimating parties. And your players still loose an arrow into one of the bandits, okay? Don't pull the punches. You got to finish them off. You've given them all the warnings, okay? You can even look at the players like I'm getting ready to loose an arrow. You'd be like, I'm going to let you roll an intuition, okay? This is a bad idea. This is Matus, okay? He killed the last 7 groups that negotiated with him. You'll make 8.
Yeah. But then that's for the players that are looking, to have that violent situation and go for it.
Those are your habitual line steppers.
The official line steppers. If you're playing that game, you should already be planning for that game. The other situation that I've run into is the bad day. That is the day when you go into a situation that your players should have no problem breezing through this encounter. This is something they've planned for. This is something they're equipped for. This is right where they're supposed to be. It is a good situation. They are primed for this, and then they roll nothing but crap.
They can't throw it in the ocean. No.
If you gave them a barn, they would miss it. It is a bad time where they are hitting nothing but snake eyes, and it is just, and you can, I am not a fan of DM, GM fudging rolls, to sort of pull punches, because sometimes those punches, they're a great incentive for the players to band together and build tactics. But if it looks like there is no chance that these players are going to be able to survive something that you have tuned perfectly for them or even under them, because the gods have willed they not roll anything decent, then, start pulling those punches.
I am a much bigger proponent of fudging rolls, allowing that to happen. Now, this is my caveat for it, because players will know, okay, if you do it too often and if you make it too blatant. Okay, players figure it out. Number one, you can never tell your players you did it. Okay, it's a secret that you have. That's the reason why you have a GM screen. You are allowed to change the HP that the monsters have. You are allowed to do other things. to make the encounter more balanced in their favor behind the screen, short of probably just like the monsters just start dropping dead. Okay, it does cheapen their win if they know that you undid something that you had in the encounter to try and fix that for them. However, if your players have a history of getting into bad spots in combat, if you typically appropriately balance your encounters correctly, then what you will end up having happen here is your players might just view this as a very balanced encounter when you walk away from it if you fudge some rolls. Okay? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you have to miss everything. Okay? But it does mean that, maybe 1 out of every 5 hits you're going to miss. Okay? It's a little favor.
Take all 5 hits.
What?
If you get enemies with multi-attacks, don't take all of them.
You don't need to take all of them. You don't know why they aren't doing it. Okay? You can have your enemies act in less tactical ways. Okay? Suddenly your enemies are not quite as tactical as they once were. There's a lot of ways that you can make it look like your enemies are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, but, and you're still on the up and up. All right? And that you can do all that before you even get to fudging any rolls. Okay? And if you do go to fudging rolls, you can still hit, and maybe you just don't do as much damage. Okay? Like, there's a lot of rolls that factor into the success and failure in a moment. Okay? And I know I know that Jared does fudge rolls from time to time, except for the times when he says he's not fudging rolls because he will literally roll out in the open. Those are the ones where we know, like, we make any mistake, he's gonna kill us. So it's a lot of like just getting out of there, just fleeing the situation. But and I understand it's a very touchy subject, fudging rolls. Okay, but there is good and bad to allowing fudging rolls. There's also good and bad to modifying rules in a situation where maybe it gives players additional options for advantage. Okay, maybe it gives players, the tactics start working better than expected. Okay, maybe you end up with things that end up more prone. Okay, so they're easier to hit. Okay, actions can you can do things if a player gets lucky and hits, because you can't throw it in the ocean right now. And you can basically make it where, something advantageous happens to the player as well based upon the situation. It does invite you the ability to kind of give good narrative role playing in a combat situation. Okay, and allowing yourself to kind of see how the flow of combat, like if you knock someone over or if you hit someone so well that they get knocked over, maybe they make a constitution roll because you finally got a good hit on them and they don't save it and they not get knocked over. Okay, there's a lot of little things you can do to get out of it. You can't just fully cheat your way out of it because your players will know, but you can there's so many rolls that happen that, like, if you don't take one of them or if you miss one of them, you're like, great, I got 9. Like, the players don't know. They're just they just don't know.
Well, and you can also throw in some environment. I know this in video games. I'm a big fan of the exploding barrel. If you have a bad situation, your players are sort of pinned down, things are going bad for them, they can't roll for anything, have them look around, and you can come up with different things that could be in the environment that maybe they can interact with without having to roll some dice that will help them get out of a situation, just to sort of save them the face, like pulling a lever, knocking down the lights from above, or hitting something that knocks over some barrels or something. Just a distraction or an action that'll not necessarily damage the enemies, but will make it easier for them to move, to maneuver, to escape, whatever. Because I think that giving your players options in a bad situation is a really great way for them to take advantage of the bad situation and turn it back towards them.
And I would only do options, fudging, whatever you want to do to try to save them from the encounter that has gone poorly, if your players are the type of players who are not, loosing random arrows into people.
Yeah,
okay?
No, let them die.
Those players you don't save. Players who are invested in the characters, who are playing well in the game. You know the difference. I don't need to explain it to you. Those are the players that you give grace to, that you find a way to make things work. Okay? Maybe, they get an inspiration somewhere through this. Like, they're so fed up, it's so frustrating, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's things you can do. There's just so many options you have to be able to sort of save your players that are within the bounds of the rules before you even get into breaking rules. And environment and terrain is one thing that can work out. There's so many options to try and save them. Now, the question that you're going to ask me after this is, what happens when I've done everything I could do to save them, and short of just saying the enemy dies, right?
Rocks fall and everyone dies.
Short of saying that the writer suffers a heart attack in the middle of the scene.
Well, and I've been in this situation too, where, in that first round of combat, the bad guy, I sent them up against crits in just like perfect boom, boom, boom. And you take out the main tank, or you take out, the main DPS, and they've got no shot at this point. Things are bad. Everything's on the table. And then they just fail. And I've seen fights go completely down in 2 rounds where it should have been a walk in the park. And that happens. It will happen to you. And I've seen different GMs play it off different ways. I've seen somebody comes along and resurrects you, or saves the people that they can after chasing off the bad guys, and you wake up a couple days later in the inn or something like that.
See, I think that's cheap.
It is.
I feel like that's the worst situation. I'd rather cheat than have to be like, oh, well, somebody else took care of it and then resurrected you. Aren't you so happy?
My favorite has been, and this is one that I'm writing for another story, and I've done this before, but I really enjoy it. You're dead. You wake up in the afterlife. New adventure in the afterlife.
That's another way you could do it. It's easier if you wipe everybody.
Yes, you absolutely have to at that point. If things have gone to the point where, like, a significant portion of the party is already dead, and they don't have the means or the opportunity to bring them back, lean into it. Take everybody out, if that's the way you plan on going.
Yeah, I'd rather wipe everybody and give everyone a fresh slate to restart together as a group than to lose one individual, because I've heard too many stories. There's a podcast that it's over now. There's Gaming and BS. In one of their stories that they told about a group they played with, somebody lost a character, 6 months into a campaign. Okay. Which is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you're playing like every week or something of that, frequency. And then, so they created a new character who was related to the other character. And then somewhere along the line, okay, they got the opportunity to sacrifice themselves to bring back the other character. Okay. And they did it without question. Okay. Now there's probably more to it there, but basically all that's telling me is that the player really wanted to keep playing the other character.
Yeah. Bob died. Here's his twin brother, Rob. Now Rob will kill himself so that Bob can come back. Yeah, that's it, it's if you're going to have invested players with invested characters and something terrible happens where they're going to die, obviously know your players. Obviously know what they are expecting or what they're going to do. But if this is the first time that they've gone through a player death, that can be really tough.
I mean, we went through a bunch of them, and I made almost carbon copies of them when I was younger, of the character that I had just lost because I wanted to keep playing that character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so it's so tough because you lose a lot of continuity with the group. I try as best I can to avoid ending up with somebody who ends up dying in a game. There's a lot of ways that you can get around death in a game, and you know it's either you wipe them all out and start anew, or you find a way to preserve that one life. Okay, find a way to save that one person. Maybe the monster goes stupid and stops attacking them. Okay, it just lets them slowly bleed out, so they make their savings throws, and somebody heals them, and they're good. Okay, but find a way to try and save the one person because you might get out of the encounter and not have to wipe everybody off the face of the party there. I mean, again. I think it's a too played out trope of having resurrection be a crutch in D&D. Even in Critical Role, and I haven't listened to all the Critical Role stuff, but I did watch a video about what happened to all the characters that had died in the game, and everybody who died came back to fucking life. They all resurrected. I'm like, that's...
Well, I haven't seen, like, there's a current bit of the storyline where one of the main cast died in a fight and didn't even show up for the last session. By the time you're hearing this, they're probably figured it out. But like, they have high level NPC friends, so they're gonna go and resurrect that way, and I think it's a cop-out. I think that, if you have a character death, you should have a character death. It should be...
Make it meaningful. Make it important. But
yeah,
don't cheapen it by being like, well, I guess we'll just go to Sulak the mage, and he'll just whip us up like a concoction of life, and we'll...
Who is the guy from Princess Bride? It's Mert the Magician, or what's his name?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, this is a lovely movie. But yeah, if everything is going bad, if a fight is just going completely off the rails, try your best to keep things alive. You have to keep stakes, though. You can't just, make any situation free for your players to survive.
Well, the ultimate consequence in a game is the loss of the character. Okay, like this is the truth, and what you're trying to do is the moment that you lose the immersion from your players that they want to try and maintain and scrape and keep the character alive under any circumstance. Okay, the moment that you lose that, then you don't have an obligation to try and help keep the player alive. Okay, because you're not gaining anything from it. So if the player has already lost the investment in the character, or the player is now starting to play the character loose and free, and they're being a lot less tactical, they're being a lot more over the top, then you don't have to try and keep the player alive for continuity of the party. Also, the same goes for the party. If the party starts acting a goof because they feel like they can never lose an encounter, you don't have to keep the party alive, but you do have to make
all the encounters. You have to make certain encounters tough. Not all the encounters. Certain encounters need to be tough. You want to be able to walk away. I'll go back to the big round table episode we did when they talked about the Dinosaur Island encounter. Okay. At the end of the Dinosaur Island encounter, everybody was down to not all their spell slots exhausted, everything low on hit points. Stakes were really high. Okay. It was make a mistake. You don't roll well. You're probably going to die. But if you do roll well, you're going to survive. Okay. And they got out of it just at the nick of everything. You know, they scraped out of the situation that they were in. And that's exactly what you're trying to aim for in any encounter that you do is that. Okay. A serious encounter should end with, we barely got out of this alive. Okay. When I have Jared and Brian fight the main bad guy in my games, or as they go through a longer game, I try to inflict wounds upon them until we get close to the end of the game when they are now at minus dice. Everything's more difficult. The stakes are much higher. There's much more tension because of that. And the combats are really, really tough and scary. Okay. And those are that's the moment that you're trying to get to. Okay. And as long as the players continue to derive enjoyment out of barely scraping by and fighting as hard as they can to barely scrape by, then you're good. Okay. The moment that they lose, that they go too far in one direction or too far in the other direction, feel like they can't be killed, that's when you've lost it all. And it's kind of like, why are we helping the players stay alive at this point? So the whole point of Wipe the Party Now What is not just, things have gone off the rails and I'm trying to salvage what I have here. Am I salvaging it for a group of players that want to continue doing this and really feel like, boy, if you give me that one more chance, I'm going to make good on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you do end up wiping the party, do it. Don't mess around with resurrections or somebody swings by and saves everybody at the last minute. Lay it out. Kill the players' characters. End that game there. And make them either create new characters or a new part of the story or something else happens. Your players headed off into the woods to investigate the blah-blah-blah. They didn't come back. Well, they're going to send another group of players to find out what happened to them.
Exactly.
Maybe that's how you keep the story going. You have options. You are telling a fantastical tale of mystery and intrigue. Do it.
Yes. Yeah. Use other options. Put together a new band of heroes that go forth, and now they're more equipped. You can even give them the knowledge in a sense of the last characters, meaning now we're in kind of our session 0.2. Okay. Mm-hmm. Second try at this. You're making characters. You have a better idea what's going on. Maybe they're like, oh man, we recovered their bodies and this bear mauled them real good. Okay, so maybe we got to have some players who can fight a bear.
Don't send Tabitha the accountant to fight the bear.
Susie the hopscotch player, Tabitha the accountant.
Derek the haberdasher. I'll make that bear a fantastical hat. Susie, how much is this going to cost me? No, that adventuring party probably will die to a bear. But once again, know your players, know what they're going to be going up against, know how they're going to react to things. And part of that is, having actual stakes in the game is important.
Yes. Make sure that you can clearly define the stakes. Make sure that your players can see them and define them and feel like they're real. That's the key. As long as they feel like they're real, then you have engagement from your players. If they don't feel like they're real, then your players are going to run roughshod over your game and make a mockery out of everything you do.
I would like to run a one shot or like a session 0 alpha, where you have players roll up characters and then you just absolutely murder them.
And then you roll a 0 beta after that, and so you like run like a one shot where you kill those characters really quick.
Yeah.
And then you do a 0 beta where it's like now you know what you're up against. Make better characters.
Exactly. Don't even make them create their own characters. Give them predefined ones for that alpha beta, the alpha 0, and so like these are the characters I came up with for you guys. Kill all of them. And then now you can create your own characters. You're going to go investigate your own murders. You know, I think that would be fun.
Okay, that could be clever.
Well, anyway,
that's a good thought. Okay, you have any other thoughts you want to add to Wipe the Party? What do you do now?
Murder. No, I'm good.
All right. We covered a lot right there. If you have thoughts on how to handle what you do after you wipe the party or when things have gone completely off the rails, let us know. levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. The podcast is also on YouTube, so smash the like button there, hit the notification bell, subscribe for the content, and otherwise subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast site, review it, recommend it to a friend, post on Facebook, Twitter, for all your socials. And that's going to wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.